All right, 3 seconds. Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to our third and final keynote of Loyalty Connect 2025. First of all, introductions. I have Laura here. Laura, could you tell us a bit more about yourself and Radiant?
Of course. Hi, my name's Laura. I am the Business Development Manager at Radiant. Radiant are a Shopify Plus partner design and development agency based up in Birmingham. And we've got, a lot of very beautiful brands that we work with who are embracing loyalty. So I'm very excited to talk about that today.
That's what we love to hear. I love the expression beautiful brands as well.
Yeah.
Fantastic. While I get ready and share my screen, perhaps you can answer a question that I've been asking a lot of our speakers this week. Which
Yeah.
brand would you say you are most loyal to and why?
Oh, I mean, there are a lot of brands that I'm loyal to and that I have, I really appreciate convenience. I have everything on a subscription, whether it's Small or Wild or Eastrid. Like, I'm very loyal to those brands. I've recently started using they're like a Korean, like face mask, like sheet mask company called Sonagai, and their loyalty program is fantastic. And it's like I'm on commission for these people, honestly. Like, I love them so much, and the customer service is fantastic. So that's definitely the one that I'm currently like really harping on about quite a lot.
Amazing. I love that it's because of the customer service. That was going to be very relevant to this session. So
Absolutely.
great
Yeah,
example. I have to check it out. Thank you.
no worries.
Okay, so the session I've been waiting for all week and been most excited about. Hot off the press, we are bringing you LoyaltyLion's brand new consumer research. We've surveyed 4,000 consumers across the UK and the US to find out how they feel about loyalty programs in 2025. And specifically, we're talking about e-commerce loyalty programs for brands like yours. We're not talking grocery stores, airlines, hotels, local coffee shops, anything like that. In this session, it's just about e-commerce and us. So we're going to find out how attitudes to loyalty programs are changing, what shoppers want from their memberships, and what brands are getting right or where they're falling behind. So we're going to get started with how shoppers feel about loyalty programs in 2025. And the headline is, it makes sense that so many more brands are investing in loyalty programs right now because shoppers are feeling pretty good about them. The increasing urgency of loyalty has been a big theme for Loyalty Connect this year, and our survey data here is really reflecting the fact that more and more brands are investing, which is good because it's what shoppers want. 80% of consumers believe that there are more loyalty programs out there than ever before, but they think this is a good thing. 85% say that they're more likely to repeat purchase from brands that have loyalty programs, and 59% say they're more likely to enroll in a program today than they were 12 months ago. When it comes to actually joining, 72% of respondents say they're members of 1 to 3 programs, and 90% are actively participating or engaging with the programs that they're members of. This is great news for the brands out there who are investing in loyalty. Those of you already investing in loyalty, give yourselves a clap on the back because shoppers are actually feeling pretty good about the loyalty programs they're members of. Around 60% of shoppers do believe that it's easier to use and understand loyalty programs and earn points today than it has been in the past. They believe that programs are more rewarding in terms of both financial and experience-based perks than they have been previously, and also that they better align with the values and causes that they're used to. Interestingly, if you were considering a paid membership program, although it's still somewhat in the minority, there is some appetite there. 54% saying that they would pay to join a loyalty program today, and 44% saying they're much more likely to pay now than they would have been 12 months ago. As you can see, anything up to around the $20 per month mark seems to be an acceptable membership rate that you can charge. So, Laura, going to come to you at this point. I would love to know, does this chime with what you're seeing at Radiant? Are you seeing more brands investing in loyalty? Are clients with existing loyalty programs experiencing greater success? How big's the risk of getting left behind here?
I think that if we split it into two categories, and that is people that are coming to us that are not yet clients, and then people that are existing clients that we've worked with over a period of time, whether that's through a project or through a retainer. If we look at incoming inquiries, it is increasingly something that we are scoping for, essentially, when we are talking to brands, when they are looking at where do they want to be in 12 months' time, if they're a new brand or if they are, migrating over to Shopify or whatever their reason for coming to us is. So that is something that in the last 6 months especially has become a mainstay of that early discovery discussion. And then the other side of it, if we look at the way that our clients, especially our retained clients, are behaving and the decisions that they're making, it's very clear that a lot of them are investing in their programs. Either they have them and they are kind of adding in more touch points, or they are starting to invest in them and put them in place now. Some of them are starting with like referral schemes and kind of more sort of like ground level programs. And then that's kind of going all the way up to member pricing and exclusive events, access to exclusive content. It depends on the brand itself, but it's definitely something that we are seeing across quite a lot of verticals, quite a lot of different industries, that they are investing in their programs for sure.
That was going to be my next question, actually. Is that across the board, or are you seeing any specific vertical trends?
I mean, we have some very specific verticals that we do very well in. So we have a lot of skincare clients, a lot of beauty clients. And so with that anyway, what you have is already a very loyal customer, because people are very brand loyal. I mean, I don't know about you, Fiona, but I'm incredibly brand loyal about, who I buy my moisturizer off of.
Yeah.
But the other thing that we're seeing is in FMCG, and also in fashion as well, especially that kind of exclusivity and access to, events, content, that kind of thing is doing very well in fashion.
Interesting. I guess it's the propensity to repeat purchase, isn't it, that really sets you up for loyalty. And if you've got that, especially in beauty, that highly repeat purchase product, then loyalty is going to look far more appealing. And fashion as well. We replenish our wardrobes really quite regularly, particularly with seasons changing, etc. So
absolutely, yeah. I think as well, a lot of the brands that we work with, they have very strong founder stories. So that kind of creation of community is very important from day one. And actually doing that through a loyalty program, it's one of the best ways to cultivate that sense of like, if you have a famous founder or you have influencers that are pushing your product, it's a really good way to make the consumer feel like they are part of that club, even if it's, just through access to pre-sale, or whatever the model they're using is. It helps build that community out, and it makes the consumers feel like they are a part of something bigger than just, I go on this website and I spend money and that's the end of the relationship.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's actually one of the things that I think Shopify as an ecosystem has given us is, I think a lot of people refer it as the democratization of e-commerce. So many founders who may not have been able to set up businesses and sell these products that mean a lot to them in the past are able to do that now. And that means that we can all connect with their stories, the reasons why they've set up those brands, the reason why they're selling those products.
Yeah. And it feeds into everything. It feeds into, their UGC, it feeds into their social strategy, into their marketing, into absolutely everything. So, having a loyalty program to kind of off the back of that and to capitalize on that and to help grow the brand is really important. And I think a lot of brands are starting or have already realized that and are actually now just kind of going all in on loyalty.
100%. Which is very good to see, because it seems to be what consumers want. So great news. You did mention something around paid memberships as well. Are many of the brands that you speak to looking at paid loyalty? Do you think that's becoming any more prominent in particular verticals?
Do you know what? I think that a lot of it depends, maybe not so necessarily on the vertical, but on the buyer, on the demographic of the customer. I think that we are seeing a lot of our brands, they are trying to appeal to like Gen Z, millennial buyers who may not have the disposable income that maybe like a Gen X buyer might. But then also we work with skincare companies that are kind of more focused towards like older women in particular. And that discussion about, will you get better value? Like, are they more likely to see the value of spending, $10 a month on access to something? And I think it depends on the demographic more than anything. It's not something that any of our clients are doing at the moment, but it is definitely, we can see it happening with other brands, that kind of paid access. And it's definitely something that it's not off the table with some of our clients, but they haven't taken the plunge just yet.
It's really interesting, isn't it? Because a lot of the bigger brands who are doing it, ASOS were probably the first.
Yeah.
It's really all around that free shipping, and you can understand why you might look at a paid membership to deliver that perk. But then we see so many of our brands with loyalty tiers who are delivering really amazing experiential rewards through their tiers without a need to pay for it. So it's yeah.
And I think, I remember when Beauty Pie first became a thing. I remember my sister getting her Beauty Pie membership and being like, this is amazing. This is like the future of how I'm going to buy makeup. And I think a huge part of that was about that accessibility and about that exclusivity, but also the preferential pricing. And actually going back to the Korean skincare company that I've recently become a member of,
Yeah.
what I thought was initially, I pay £10 a month and they send me 5 face masks. And then I logged onto their website and I realized that actually as a member, I get wholesale pricing on the masks that they have in stock, right? So I get my order every month on a subscription, but my order this month is going to be £10 more than it was previously because I went on their website and was like, oh, that one, because it's wholesale pricing. So in my head, I'm like, well, it's about a quarter of the price it would be if I bought it in Boots. So it's been interesting for me to kind of realign in my head that actually it's not just a subscription, it is kind of a paid membership that I've got because I'm still getting those preferential prices on top of my subscription.
Yeah.
So my AOV as a customer has doubled in 1 month, which is like, if everyone was doing that, that's incredible.
Yeah, and time to next purchase has come down dramatically as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's an interesting point there, though. I mean, if you didn't know that until you went onto their site, so
No,
the visibility of those perks is really important, isn't it? You have to make sure that
absolutely.
your customers are aware of what they're getting for their loyalty, for their membership.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, fantastic. So that actually brings us on very nicely to what your customers really want from your loyalty programs. And, the really good news here is that it's not discounts that are the only enrollment driver. While financial rewards and free or discounted shipping do come out really top in terms of what motivates shoppers to join a loyalty program, as we can see here, early access to sales, early access to new products, they're really not that far behind. And actually, 50% or more of shoppers are also motivated to join programs in order to unlock things like the opportunity to support charities and causes, the chance to get online or in-store event invitations, the chance to give feedback on products, and personalized comms as well. So there's a huge number of ways to reward customers actually that are outside discounts and financial transactions here. And they're very open to it. If more than half of your customer base is open to something alternative to a discount, that's huge. Next, we wanted to understand what was important to loyalty program members and how those expectations are currently being met by brands. So once again, it is unsurprising to see that discounts, free shipping top the charts in terms of importance here. But they're really closely followed by free product rewards or samples. Things like the ability to use the program in store and consistent omni-channel mobile experiences come up really strong. Subscriber specific benefits that we've literally just been talking about. And again, early access to sales. Priority support, early access to new products, event invitations, queue jump, personalization, all also considered important, potentially to a slightly lesser degree. There's always room for improvement, obviously, but it is really good to see that consumers broadly feel that brands are meeting those expectations, with at least half saying that most of these rewards are being delivered effectively. I think there's some key areas for improvement, things like free product rewards and samples. We know these are really important. We've been told they're important. We know people want them, but we're not delivering them quite as effectively. Also, personalized SMS is something we could do better, but most worryingly, actually, priority customer support, important, but we're not delivering on it that well. So it's super helpful to see this just because it helps us to identify where you can focus on optimizing a program. Laura, again, I'd love to come to you here. Are the brands that you work with looking to loyalty programs as a way to limit the number of discounts they have to give? Do you think your clients are kind of open to experience-based rewards as alternatives to discounts?
I think yes, basically. I think that essentially, like for a long time, discounting was a very easy way for brands to do a number of things, right? It's good for if you've got overstock. It's good for if you need to push something, if you want to get some attention in the marketplace. Discounting can be a really effective tool for that. But if everyone's discounting at the same time, then all you are doing is devaluing not just your product, but also your brand, right? So I think that brands are starting to kind of wise up to that and also realize there are better ways of doing it. You have to be a bit more clever and a bit more targeted with how you're approaching it. I think that in terms of what the customers are looking for, it's value, and that could be monetary value. It could be, experience. It's dependent on the customer of what they determine value to be. Is it what they want? Is it what they need? Exclusivity is such a big thing, especially in like peer-driven verticals, things like beauty and skincare, and then experiences as well. I think that a lot of brands have shifted their model away from influencer heavy, like going all in on influencers, and actually moving towards, I think actually Never Fully Dressed, who I think you've spoken to, they have this whole thing about, the customer is the influencer. And that's such an interesting mindset of like, actually, you're right, because you have a captive audience of loyal customers who are posting pictures of your outfits on social media. Like, you should be utilizing that. So I think that brands need to have a really clear idea of who their customer is and then tailor accordingly to that. I think that, I think there are other things as well that, like I mentioned small at the start. It's not necessarily something that would be for everyone, but the sort of people that are generally buying small tend to be quite environmentally conscious, maybe a bit altruistic in what they perceive to be value. And they send me an impact report of, okay, this is how much plastic you've saved this year. This is how much water you've saved. This is how many washes we've donated on your behalf. And to me, that is value. It won't be value to everyone, but to me it is. So I feel like, okay, well, that's part of my experience with them as a brand, and it's part of the thing that keeps me loyal to them. So, but then also, like, they don't give me any discounts, they don't do any sales, there's nothing like that. It's not that type of brand, and it's not that type of product. So it's so important just to know who is buying your product and what is it that they want. I think it's the same with free shipping. I think it's the same actually with like free products and samples and stuff like that. I'm happy to receive free products if it's something I'm going to use. If you're a makeup company, you're saying, okay, well, we're going to, for every $50 that someone spends, we're going to put in a free lipstick. Well, if you put a lipstick in any random color, that's not going to be tailored to what the buyer necessarily wants. So it's going to be a waste of products, it's a waste of resources, it's a waste of time and postage and all of these things. And actually, it's a bit of a burden to the person that's receiving it, because then they're like, well, now I've got to do something with this lipstick that I'm not going to use. So you've got to be mindful about how you're utilizing all of these things, and are they appropriate to the people that are actually consuming your products?
Yeah, 100%. Because we don't. You're right. You want to be introducing people to products that they like and they might use, and a lot of the time we have the data to know that. So if you can send them the right thing, and you're looking at the product history, what have they actually bought? What could you give that complements that?
Exactly.
Is much more powerful. It's interesting to hear you. We can't get away from discounts in time.
No.
Black Friday is going to come around. Your customers are going to expect a little bit of money off. They probably are now going to be waiting for you to do the second or third discount that they know is coming halfway through the week or whatever it might be. But it's really interesting to hear you say, Smile is just not a brand that discounts. I think there's also a really interesting journey between, well, we've started out not discounting and we can continue that, versus shifting and encouraging your customer base to shift as well from, that's something we used to do or something we do on occasion, but then shaping your discount strategy so that actually you're exactly as, again, going back to the Japanese face masks, you said that you get wholesale prices because you're a loyal member, offering the discounts to the people that are most loyal and shop most regularly rather than blanket discounting. I think there's so much you can do that's very strategic to limit the impact of that. And then when we tie that to the experiences, I was doing something you said made me think of Represent Clothing, which is one of the brands that we work with. It was turning your own audience into your influencers. They had their store launch up in Manchester not that long ago, and the internet it broke. It went wild. The videos that were going around of people queuing outside the store, the length of the queue, it was phenomenal. And if you have your loyalty program members and you can get them creating that content, sharing that content, and telling the world how great your program is, how great your brand is, that is a lot more effective than a discount, surely.
Absolutely. And there are brands that do this really well without even having a loyalty program in place. Like, I think a great example of this is a brand like Coach, right? Where if you buy something from Coach, then they give you a lifetime of free leather care, and you can go into their stores and they will clean your handbag for you and they'll condition the leather. And that's just by owning the product, right? You don't have to take a receipt in with you. You just walk in with a Coach bag and they'll do that for you. And that keeps me loyal to them, because that's, that is a loyalty program in its sense, but it's not trackable, right? You can't use that data. So you've got to be clever about how you do it and how you use that data to then grow your brand.
Yeah. And I think, the loyalty program, at least, it gives you a vehicle for that data. It gives you a way of capturing that information, a way of segmenting that data, segmenting your comms a little bit more efficiently, perhaps, than running those initiatives without the program.
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, that's actually a really interesting look as well at the difference between a beauty brand where somebody's replenishing anything from every week to every 3 months, let's say, to a handbag that I almost put in the mattress category. Some people keep their handbags for 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah.
So that continuous contact in between purchases is super important, and that, making sure that you have that service that means that, okay, I'm going shopping for another handbag. Well, I'm definitely going to buy another one of those.
Yeah, exactly. And there are other, like, I think Patagonia as well. You buy a Patagonia product, they will repair it for you for life. And again, that's because the Patagonia customer is someone that values that, because generally they're quite eco-conscious. Another brand that don't do discounting, they don't do sales, because that's not what their customer wants and that's not what their customer expects.
And I think, again, speaking to your customer and figuring that out is such an important part of the journey. Finding out what they value, understanding your demographics. Who are your loyal customers? Are they are they people with disposable income who can afford the handbag, or are they people who are actually looking for a little bit of help to buy that first handbag? I think
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think, I think that brands can get very caught up in working out who their ideal customer is rather than who their actual customer is. And the reality is that data is there, and it's quite easy to determine, okay, well, what's the gender, what's the demographic, what's the location of my average customer, not my ideal customer.
Be super interesting to look at that. I'd love to know, of all the brands listening, if you were to do that comparison, would it surprise you or not? That would be such an interesting exercise. Fantastic. So now on to the third and final part of our research. What are we getting right and where are we falling behind? So I am really excited actually to see some of these numbers. It is great to see that there's been real progress when it comes to loyalty program usability and accessibility. Now, if you've heard me on webinars before, you know that I have always believed in a real legacy problem for brands that are investing in loyalty today, because programs of the past, and I'm afraid grocery stores, airlines, I'm looking at you here. The programs just used to be so complicated to use. You never knew how many points you had. You never knew how to use them. When you tried to use them, it was really difficult, and you also never got the value back that you thought you should. There is definitely an inherited loyalty is complicated, and I really believe that we are getting away from that, and it is fantastic to see these numbers back that up. We are breaking down that legacy, because today 82% of consumers say they find it easy to join loyalty programs. Over 75% understand how many rewards they've earned and how to use them. 70% understand what tier they're in and what rewards are available on that tier. And 74% find it easy to use the program on a mobile, which is super important and really awesome to see. There are some areas for improvement, though, which is good, because otherwise we'd have nothing to do all day. But it is a shame to see that actually only around half of respondents feel that they are getting a better customer experience as a loyalty program member. And actually only 61% feel that they're getting a more personalized experience. That it makes me a little bit sad, because we work really hard on our loyalty programs. We work really hard on our customer experiences, and we want customers to feel that exclusive, loved feeling. So it's a shame to see that perhaps we're not doing quite as well as we could there, but challenge accepted. I'm sure we can all do better. Most concerning, though, is that when we consider the importance of customers sharing their data in a post-cookie environment, as marketers, that's what we need. We need the data. But only 58% feel that the data they share via the loyalty programs is used responsibly. Along similar lines, 50% feel that they're receiving too many loyalty emails, and only 59% say that those emails feel personalized. So I think, there's a lot of work we can all do to really look at how we're using that data to really drive more personalized recommendations. We can look at using more incentives like points for quizzes or profiles to get the data we need to really personalize these messages. And finally, 43% of the shoppers that we spoke to have contacted loyalty program support for help in the past 12 months. If we look at the stats on the slide before, that number could be a lot worse. It could be far more. I do think that the loyalty programs are getting easier to use. People are contacting support less, but there's definitely some areas for optimization there if almost half of shoppers are still contacting loyalty program support. So, Laura, coming back to you here, it's great to see that actually loyalty program members are seeing improvements in how easy it is to join, how easy it is to log in, participate in programs. And I'd love to know, do you think this is down to technology? Do you think it's down to general differences? Do you think there's something else entirely at play here?
I mean, I don't think that the technology, like, I think it helps, right? Like, I think that the technology has reached a point where it's so easily accessible and it's so intuitive for the end user that that's always going to be a help to growing these programs and to helping brands as well from the back end as well, helping them manage their loyalty programs. That's always going to be helpful. I think, again, we have this kind of age of social media where people are so used to things being perfectly tailored for them without them really doing very much. Like, you look on your TikTok and on your Instagram and these pages, it's like someone's gone into your head and gone, I know exactly what you want and I know exactly what you need. And so it's not necessarily surprising that shoppers are wanting to then see that reflected in their shopping experience. And we're seeing this across the board, right? We're seeing this in all aspects of ecom, that people want this higher level of personalization and they're expecting it now, right? It's no longer something that people have to put a lot of time and effort into, because a lot of the tech partners that we work with, including LoyaltyLion, are investing so much time into making sure that the personalization is there and it's intuitive. In terms of what's driving, again, I think it's the value. We are going through this, this cost of living crisis, there's tariffs, there's all of these kind of uncertainties in the market, and people want to get the best value, the best deal out of the brands that they are loyal to. And if a brand has a good loyalty program and they talk about it and they advertise it and they push it and all of the right ways to, get it in front of people, there's no reason why people shouldn't be engaging with it. There are some brands that have such a good way of driving that engagement because their loyalty programs are done through like points-based systems, for example, that you earn points through posting about it on social media, you earn points from, referring friends, from sending back your recycling, your little pots to be recycled and stuff like that. So it's not just being driven by spend, it's being driven by engagement with the brand. And that is really, you're building it into a lifestyle rather than it just kind of being like, again, like I go on this website, I spend this money, that's it. And I do that once every 3 months. Like, you are creating an environment in which people feel like they have a relationship with not just the product, but with the brand. So it doesn't surprise me that people feel a lot more comfortable engaging in these programs, because our entire life is driven around engaging with brands, whether it's through social media or, through how we spend our money. So it makes complete sense. Yeah.
It does, and it's really interesting to see how brands are capturing that in different places as well. We saw on the previous slide that people are finding using a loyalty program on mobile really, really easy. We're also seeing so many more brands bringing their loyalty programs in store and allowing people to earn points not just for the purchases, but also for things like recycling packaging or attending events in store as well. So it's nice to see that people can get this connection wherever they are shopping as well. Yeah, interesting. Sad to see that we're not quite there with the personalized experiences yet, but lots of motivation to do better. So finally, you mentioned the T word, so let's talk tariffs. To up our research, we wanted to have a quick look at how economic uncertainty and changes in consumer confidence can impact loyalty. There is certainly a notion that customers start shopping purely with price in mind during a confidence dip. The good news is that loyalty programs can definitely act as a bit of an insurance policy against this when economic uncertainty hits. So our research showed that 71% are actually more likely to join a loyalty program during a time of low consumer confidence. So actually they recognize that there is value to be had from a loyalty program, that if they are having to tighten their belts or they're being a little bit more careful with their spend, they may be able to make their money go further if they join a loyalty program, or they might get that additional value that is worth more to them than a low price might be. 64% also said that they would prioritize shopping with brands that have loyalty programs, and 77% will prioritize shopping with brands that they've shopped with before. And again, this kind of makes sense because when we are not feeling confident, we need trust. We need to shop with brands that we know will deliver what we need from them. We don't want to be returning more things and having that credit card charge refunded the weeks later. We want to know who we're shopping with, and we want to know that we will get good quality and good support should we need it. So it's good to see that reflected in these numbers, particularly as we go through this period of uncertainty at the moment. So I think, whether it's tariffs, interest rates, or inflation, or something else entirely, loyalty programs remain really popular and powerful with consumers when their confidence falls, and that's great to see. Laura, coming to you one last time, are you seeing brands lean on loyalty programs, lean on their existing or returning customers when confidence dips, or are you seeing people sort of stall and say, wait, we can't really change anything right now?
I think the general trend that we're seeing, in particular in like highly competitive markets where the market has become very crowded when it comes to beauty and fashion and certain like lifestyle brands, that having that sort of captive audience of loyal customers is really important. And these figures that you have here, I think, sum it up perfectly, that people aren't necessarily in a mood to shop around at the moment and take that risk. If they use something and they like it, but it's $30 for a bottle of serum, well, you just use it a bit more sparingly, rather than buying one that you don't think is going to work for half the price. So I feel like we're very lucky in that sense, because our brands that we work with really get that, and they're not in the business of compromising on their own quality and their own service that they give to their customers. So I think that's why a lot of them are leaning into loyalty programs, because it is a way for them to give back to their customers that have stuck with them through the however many years of economic uncertainty we've been going through, all of the once in a lifetime economic events that we keep on having. So I think that for our clients, a lot of their reason for leaning into it is to make it easier for their customers to remain loyal, and to reward them for that. But I think as well, this is where things like preferential pricing is really interesting, because again, it's not quite discounting in that sort of blanket sense of like, if you refer 5 people, we're going to give you 20% off your next order. It's more like on certain things at certain times of the year, we're going to give you, a slightly lower price if you log in, or whatever it is, if it's free shipping, if it's anything like that. Like, it's just a way of rewarding people for their loyalty. I think a lot of our clients have realized that retention is maybe in some cases a better use of their time and money than outreach and trying to get new markets and trying to find new customers, because actually they have an audience there. And it's, I'd hate to go back to me and the face masks, but my AOV doubled. So if they can do that with their customers, then I feel like it kind of removes that tunnel vision of like, oh, we have to get new customers, we just have to keep on loading people in. And actually your customers are there, they're loyal to you and your brand. And actually, I think a lot of them, if they can, then they will spend more money with you. And doing that through a loyalty program, everyone wins.
I think 100% right. It makes me laugh. The once in a lifetime events, of course, it has been quite over the last few years for sure. But no, I think, as purchase frequency might decline, as you say, we use things more sparingly. We don't replace them immediately as we might have done before. As the purchase frequency could drop, how can you bolster the AOV to make sure that you're countering that? And we know that typically loyalty program members do have a higher AOV. They do typically spend more per purchase. So it makes a lot of sense to focus on that group of people that already know and trust your brand, particularly as well, because actually what can happen, and I think we saw it predominantly during the pandemic, actually, but a lot of brands you can panic. You can think, okay, we're going to lose some customers here. We're not going to drive the growth, so we will pour some more money into PPC. We'll pour some more money into paid social, etc. That's where we'll focus on growing there. But all that happens then is the more brands that do that, the higher the costs rocket. And suddenly you're paying more to acquire each customer, but you're getting them for potentially that one-off purchase instead of nurturing them into multiple purchases along the way. And it is time consuming, and it is potentially less rewarding than focusing on retention, as you say.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of consumers, especially younger consumers, can really kind of see through that as a strategy. I think that there is a lot of power in very sincere advocacy of a brand, right? If you like a brand and you talk about it, and you see this all the time when famous people talk about brands, and then suddenly like everything sells out, or like a famous person's wearing something and everything sells out within minutes. Like that's really powerful, but that is not the norm for how people talk about brands online, especially paid social, especially, hashtag ad and all this kind of stuff. I, as a consumer, I very rarely trust that it's a sincere partnership that someone's doing. If I'm seeing like a Kardashian talking about a cleaning product, I'm like, come on, like it's just not sincere. And to me, it devalues the brand. It lowers the brand in my estimation, because it's not a sincere endorsement of a product. Whereas if it is, if you are driving the loyalty with your customers that are already there, and also you are rewarding them for engaging with the brand, whether that's through posting on social, or you're driving that UGC and you're bringing it through to your website, then that to me is establishing far more trust in a brand, far more likability in a brand, and that to me is a much better long-term strategy for growth.
I agree, and I think it was very interesting when all the tariffs changes first hit the news. It was so interesting to see quite a few brands start to mail out to their loyalty base. We don't know what's happening. We don't know what this impact is going to have, but we will look after you.
Yeah.
And I think that was a really, as you say, that transparency, that relationship, that authenticity. It was lovely to see brands just sort of showing that solidarity with customers, but and being quite honest as well. There were a fair few messages I saw where it said, we will have to charge you more. Sorry, but we will make it worth your while. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see how people start to lean into their loyalty programs to increase that value and make sure that actually, we have increased our prices, but look what you're getting in exchange for staying with us.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely. And again, it's that perception of value. What does value look like to your customer? Because it's going to be different for every brand. It's going to be different for every customer.
Yeah, and ask your customers, right? They're the ones that can tell you. That's
exactly.
100%. Okay, folks, that is our latest and greatest consumer insight. Stay tuned, because we'll actually be releasing far more detail on this in our full Consumer Loyalty Index over the next month or so. But really hope that you enjoyed the sneak preview today. If there are other things you'd like us to explore in research, please do let us know, because we want to make sure that we are giving you the insights that are most useful for you. I want to say a huge thanks to Laura, for joining us and sharing her insights. If you'd like to find out more about Radiant, or you have any questions for Laura, then I'm sure she'd be very happy to connect with you on LinkedIn and answer those. Laura, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed everything. It's great to hear the perspective on somebody that's working with lots of brands across a lot, big portfolio. So thank you so much for bringing those insights for us.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's an absolute pleasure to talk about it, because it is just so important. And
fantastic. Okay, now time to take a step forward into the future. For our next session, our product team will be taking us on a tour of what comes next in the world of loyalty and retention. Stay tuned, and we will be back in just a second. Laura, thank you so much. We'll see you again soon.
Hey.